The government will insist on the right to diverge from EU financial services regulation as part of a post-Brexit trade deal with Brussels.Writing in City A.M. today. Chancellor Sajid Javid says the city will no longer be a rule-taker and reveals that ministers are working on a white paper setting out a vision of the financial services sector once the Brexit transition period is over. The government will set out its vision for the future of financial services, including the city's future relationship with the EU and the rest of the world, in a white paper to be published this spring. Read more. City hits back at EU's improved equivalence regime. The strategy, which is still in development, will be published this spring and will outline how Downing Street expects its preferred system of outcome-based equivalence to work with the EU, as well as the UK's framework for granting equivalence to other jurisdictions. Beyond Brexit, it will also consider the industry's future in relation to worldwide challenges such as emerging technologies and climate change. Writing exclusively for City A.M. Javid sets out the government's plans to retain regulatory autonomy while seeking a reliable equivalence process, on which a durable relationship can be built. Of course, each side will only grant equivalence if it believes the other's regulations are compatible, the Chancellor writes. But compatible does not mean identical, and both the UK and the EU have at different times recognized the importance of focusing on regulatory outcomes. Read more. US and UK should have mutual recognition for financial sectors from day one of post-Brexit trade deal pledging to retain the highest international standards of financial regulation, and to shaping global rulemaking. Javid added, "We may choose to do things in the same way as the EU if it works for the UK. But there will be differences, not least because as a global financial centre the UK needs to keep pace with and drive international standards. Our starting point will be what's right for the UK." He also recommitted to concluding a full range of equivalence assessments by June of this year, in order to give the system sufficient stability ahead of the end of transition. One senior industry figure told City A.M. that while a white paper was welcome after a long period where there had been very little on the big picture for financial services, it was important that the right balance was struck. Read more. Equivalence can't trump passporting, warns bank boss. The more you talk about trade outside the EU, the more you put at risk your EU structures, he said. He backed Javid's flexible approach towards equivalence, but noted it would be quite challenging to get the EU on board. He also warned that industry would need safeguards, including commitments to give early warning of policy changes that might affect. For more on this story, visit the news article link.